It's the middle of the summer, it's super hot in here. Who's ready for a repot with me? Hi, my name is Memo, this is my channel, Houseplantygoodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see some of it behind me, it's tropical houseplants. So yes, today is going to be July's repot with me, and yeah, as I said, apologies for looking a bit slovenly today, but it is obscenely warm in here, and I'm doing this at like 6:30 in the morning, so... I've been up since 4:30 and I'm still doing things. But without further ado, let me just scoot you down and let's start the repot. Okay, I've got some cool plants to repot today. I've obviously, you can't tell, I've scooted you down for the really, really unflattering angle, as I usually do. But one of the things that I do want to repot, I don't know, I might put some of it in a prop box, maybe not a prop box, but maybe in some water, and I'll show you what I mean. I've already taken a cutting, but it has got some decent aerial roots, and I'll show you, hopefully that will focus, on the aerial roots that are there. But this beast, and I mean, just to give you a bit of a head test for kind of context, this is a very much a reverted variegated Adansonii from years back, and I've put it on a moss pole and it's just gone absolutely feral. This is the reason why I had to cut this off, and you can see kind of how it's bending. It was hitting the ceiling of the conservatory and starting to like hang off the moss pole. So I'm just like, okay, you need addressing. But it's for the people that are wondering how big an Adansonii, and this is not the biggest size. I know there's a lot of other YouTubers that have done kind of very mature Adansonii, Monstera Adansonii, but this is the largest I've ever managed to get any of mine. So I want to see if I can continue that trend. So yeah, I need to decide what I'm going to do with this. It might be that, because I've got quite a few aerial roots further down, I might do, I desperately want to just pop this into some soil and just see how it goes. Which, to be fair, might be what happens, because I've still got a lot of plant of this, and it's going quite large. So I just want to see if I can kind of get it to root out in just soil. I've done it successfully with the, I'm looking at it, the Syngonium chiapens. And it's taken a while, it's taken a beat, it's looking very pathetic, but it's starting to perk up again, which to me signifies roots. So yeah, no, just try it. Growers do this all the time. They're not propagating in sphagnum moss by and large. We're talking about the big growers. Or even in water, they are just shoving cuttings into soil and just going, okay, grow. So that's one. Then, I wanted to give you a bit of an update on a plant. Let me see if I can just grab it without dropping absolutely everything. Come on. Are you going to come off? No, because being difficult. So, this little plant is, and I know people were asking me to give them updates on how it's going. This is the blue star fern grown epiphytically. Exceptionally well. Exceptionally well. It's got so many new leaves. Absolutely zero crisping. It is drying out before I water it. I am treating this like a staghorn. Ta-ta! Fine. Absolutely fine. This might be an interesting one. If I can find a few more ferns that are epiphytic rather than ground dwelling, I might try a lot more of them on a mound. Because why not? Makes their care a hell of a lot easier. And then on the topic of mounts, let me show you something else. Remember the Hoya longifolia China beans that everybody was just like, it's a Dischidia? It is definitely a Dischidia, and you might be able to see some of the blooms now as well. But, and you might see that one growth point there, it is doing so well. Let me bring it up so you can kind of see the blooms as well there, and you can see some more down there. This is definitely not a Hoya, just by the blooms alone. Super well. Super well. It's the first time, I know, I'm late to the party. It's the first time I'm growing a Dischidia in a mount. And actually a lot of the things that I was seeing online is just like you can grow these pretty much like an orchid. So the mount theoretically should have been filled up with orchid bark and just some damp sphagnum moss to keep everything inside. But I actually put cactus soil mix in the back, which is going to drain super easily. It might as well be something like orchid bark, and then just again sphagnum moss to keep it all there. This is more growth. This one singular growth point is more growth than I've had on this plant for an entire year when it was in soil. So, mounting. Absolutely mounting, and it is doing so well. And this happened so fast. It took about a week or two to adjust to the fact that it was in a mount, and it has since not skipped a beat. Granted, we are in the growing season, so I will caveat that now. But yeah, it's doing really well, and I thought I'd give you a bit of an update on this because I think this might be a bit of a game changer when it comes to growing Dischidias. The other things that I want to repot today are, let me show you, and I think this might actually link to one of the questions today. So I have got this Monstera siltepecana. I don't think there's a form. This is not a form, this is just the bog standard siltepecana. That is growing on a moss pole, and it's doing okay, but recently it's started to like go a bit bare at the bottom. There is so much old stem because this was one very long vine. Am I enjoying this plant? Not particularly, but it fills the spot in my kind of kitchen window, which nothing else will grow, but this is doing okay. It's got loads of roots in the moss pole. I think one of the questions is that, and today I'm going to be repotting two plants that are on moss poles, cutting off the bottom and kind of starting them with the moss pole roots basically into some new media and just seeing how that will do. And then in the same vein, this plant, believe it or not, is another cutting from the same one that I just showed you a moment ago, the reverted Adansonii, which has never grown particularly large. I've put it on a moss pole. It has got so many roots on a moss pole. It keeps dropping lower leaves. So it's really barren, or bare technically, and it's doing a lot at the top. And I was hoping this was going to get larger, but it's just not doing it. Has this had thrips? Yes. Does this potentially still have some thrips? Also yes. Now the debate is, do I bother repotting this, or can I be bothered to do anything with this plant and it might just end up in the compost gods? That might be what happens. But I do have another plant that might take its place in terms of kind of repotting today, but I need to check and see the roots because I've got a Hoya longifolia, I think, or macrofolia. I'll put the name at the top. It's been a while. It rotted. Words on a Sunday morning. It had rotted out entirely, but it still had all of its leaves. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna chuck you in a prop box, which I promptly forgot, and it's been there for over a year now. So I'm hoping there might be some roots. Watch them being nothing, because I've opened it on occasion, very rarely, like once every 6 months, and seen that all the leaves are still attached, and it seems fine. Nothing's gone mush, but I'm just like, I don't know if there's any roots. So we shall see. If there are roots, that is going to get potted up and placed. It might even replace the plant that's going to go to the compost gods. So actually, let me move that away from other plants if it's got thrips. But yes, and obviously thank you everybody for sending pictures in. I'm going to see how long this video goes because there's a few questions there. It is also, as I said in the beginning of the video, obscenely warm today. I was hoping to film this end another video. It might just be this one that I filmed today. Preemptively, apologies if you only get one video this week. I will try and see if I can film a second video tomorrow, like on a Monday or a Tuesday. But I can't make any promises. At the moment, I'm having to get up super early because I need to deal with the dogs, the chickens, the allotment, the plants in the garden, the plants in here, and that's like almost like a full day's work for most people before I even start my 9-to-5 job. And at the end of that, I still need to go and deal with the chickens, the dog, and potentially watering the allotment as well. So the days are very full at the moment. I'm trying to squeeze in filming where I can and as early as I can, in order to not bake in here, essentially. To give you some context, I haven't even watered in here yet. So after this, I'm still probably going to be in here for another hour or two watering, so wish me luck. But yeah, let's start with some of the questions. Some good questions, as always. You all never disappoint me when it comes to questions. So let's start with, and again, I'll do all the personal questions at the end. I'll also give you a bit of an update because I know I mentioned that I was a bit, like my mental health was like struggling because I was dealing with a lot of stuff earlier last week. I'm still dealing with that. That's the other reason why I'm quite busy at the moment. And I'll give you a bit of an understanding as to what that is because I like to be transparent with you. But yes, first question. I've got my handy phone here because otherwise, this person says they love the repots. Oh, I'm glad. Hopefully a lot of you are enjoying them. But I think first question, there's several questions here. So spider mites, can you ever really get rid of them, or do they, when they're here, are they here to stay? I feel like I keep them in check, but every couple of weeks or months, they'll find an infested plant. This is an interesting one, and I can't talk to everybody's experience. But in my experience, yes, I have been able to get rid of spider mites entirely in my collection. I also grow in a high humidity environment, so spider mites don't tend to like this space as much. I used to get more on plants that were out in regular household humidity, and those types of plants I don't keep in there, I keep in here for that specific reason. So yes, I find that you can, but again, you can all chime in down in the comments below whether or not you agree with that. It's a very valid question. I also don't worry massively with spider mites at this point because as long as I'm staying on top of them, the leaves might look a bit, but they very rarely do any substantial damage to the plant unless it's a heavy, heavy, heavy infestation and you just haven't picked it up. Next question is, if I could create a plant, how would it look like? What would the growth pattern be like? What would the size, the shape, and the structure of the leaves? Would it be variegated? And if so, what colours would the variegation be? Look at all those. If I could create a plant, what would it look like? I've had a similar question before in another repot, and I'll give you a different answer this time around. So, I know. So, something like a Vitarifolium, so strappy leaved, so that's one. I would like the texture of the leaves, instead of it being leathery or even like kind of velvety, I would love it to have that rubbery feel of the Syngonium chiapense. The leaf size, I would want it to get even bigger than the Vitarifolium, so love the strap leaf Anthurium. So these can get, at least so far in my care, I've got, I think the longest one I had was like 1.5 meters, maybe 2 meters. I would like them to get even bigger, so that's one thing. Yes, I wouldn't mind some variegation. I tend to be enjoying some of the Anthurium variegation. However, again, sky's the limit. I would like them to have variegation, sectoral variegation, like you get like the Monstera albo. And I would like for them to have lily white variegation. Not yellow, not neon green, although I would like a neon green. But lily white, think white princess, that kind of level of lily white, and sectoral rather than splashy, which is what you get on Anthuriums. That, I think, would be very cool. Very apt next question is, why do Dischidias hate me, although I really do love them? Try the mounting thing. Seriously, try the mounting thing. I've had good success with that. I've tried growing a lot of Dischidias in soil and in pots, and they've always done okay maybe for a while, and then you do something slightly wrong and then they throw a hissy fit and then die entirely, and it's just like, you were fine, nothing has changed. What has happened? I've not been growing it on a mound for that long, but based on what I'm seeing now, I'm just like, oh, you know, like, I don't know how else to describe this. You know, if you've ever had like a pet, like, I'm thinking more along the lines of like maybe a hamster or a guinea pig or a fish, small pets that are interactive but not as interactive as a cat or a dog, for instance. And it's, you're always trying to figure out, or even reptiles, and you're trying to figure out what will make them happy, and all of a sudden you get it right, and you can see an immediate reaction in terms of like how much happier that animal is. And you're just like, oh, this is what you needed. I find the mounting with that Dischidia was exactly that. It was just like, oh, this is what you needed. So try that maybe. And the next question is, what is the weirdest plant in my collection, I would imagine, and also the oldest plant? Oh, weirdest, I'm kind of having a look around to see. Weirdest. Depends on your definition of weird, really, doesn't it? But maybe my bulbophyllum orchids, the orchids that have got the little bulbs at the bottom and the leaves. I haven't had them to bloom yet, but when they bloom, they're very weird-looking blooms. So that's one. Oldest plant in my collection. Oldest. Interestingly, and this might shock some of you, one is my Calathea Beauty Star, I think, at the moment. I'm trying to think in the rest of the house as well. Calathea Beauty Star, Sansevieria Moonshine, Moonlight, whatever it's called. Relatively old at this point is my Anthurium beechii that I started off as a plug plant and now it's like a beast. Oh, variegated monsteras. Variegated monsteras. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And pothos. Pothos enjoy. And there were so many questions. There's a lot of love for pothos at the moment, or epipremnums. I'll get to that. But yeah. Hopefully that answers your questions. Let me not do the usual thing of just sitting here and answering questions. Let's actually start repotting something, shall we? Let me actually check that Hoya, and that will be the easiest one because it's not in soil or anything yet. To answer that question, yes, we've got plenty of roots on this one, and you can see what I mean. The leaves are all still there. Like, it's insane. I've got roots growing on peduncles. Let me just kind of show you there. That is insane. I don't know what I'm going to do with this now. There's even roots growing on something that looked a bit dead. Oh no, actually that, yeah, wow. This might be more than one plant, if I'm being honest. This might end up becoming more than one plant because there's so many roots and it'd be a shame to waste any of it, basically. So let's do some snipping and some answering of questions as well. Give me a sec. Okay, let's do the pothos question. So question is, I'd like to know more about your pothos collection. I'm obsessed with how classic this genus is. These stunners will never grow old or disappear from this person's home. Doesn't matter how basic. I love my golden girls. Oh, I love that. And then somebody else says underneath as well, same here, just love the Epipremnum, Scindapsus, and Philodendron hederaceum. So a lot of love. And there's another question that's coming up. Actually, let me see if I can bring that up as well, and we can kind of do it all in one fell sweep. Next question on this was, am I growing any pothos plants? And if so, where am I growing them? Okay, so let's deal with all of those questions in one go. So yes, I do grow pothos. Going through the ones that I've got in here, and I'll tell you what I've got in the house. So I've got a lot, and I'll see if I can put some pictures or videos here because I can't take them out of shelves. It will make sense when you see the pictures. And the people that have seen the houseplant tours, I'll link it at the top there. And there is a question about the houseplant tours I'm getting to you. You'll know why. So there is, I'm looking at them because I've got my epipremnum corner. So I've got a lot of pothos enjoy, propagates and propagates and propagates, and it's just feral in this space. I have got a marble queen in this space as well as in the regular household conditions outside of here. There is a Manjula pothos, one there and one there. I have got a Cebu blue in here somewhere. Yeah, there's the Cebu blue that I can see in there. I've got a variegated Epipremnum pedatum somewhere in here as well, feral. I've got an Epipremnum amplicium there, and I've got one upstairs as well. And pedatum I've already said. Did I say? So a regular pedatum, Epipremnum pedatum, rather than a variegated pedatum. And then pedatum. Oh, skeleton key. An Epipremnum skeleton key. So yes, got several. I've also got a Philodendron hederaceum in there, in here, the green one. I don't gel too well with that. And a neon one in a regular household humidity. Scindapsus. I've got things to say on the Scindapsus actually. I used to have more Scindapsus, and I used to have the Scindapsus argyraeus, I think it was. So the velvet pothos, which I think a lot of people say, even though it's technically not a pothos. That one I need to get back into my collection relatively soon because I did really enjoy growing that. So that is one thing that will be added very soon. I need to find somewhere to put this down. About there. And I'm going to be growing that plant in a similar way to how I'm growing some of my other plants, which is to say, I'm a Hoya plants, which is to say I'm going to be growing it in a cactus soil mix. Rather than any other form of soil mix. I find that that one does the best when it's in that. So, yes. And then, what were some of the other questions? I agree with you, genus is great. And I mean, if you look at all of the examples that I just gave you, they're all over my house. So the fact that I'm growing them at that level should tell you something. And I agree, I don't think the pothos plants or the epipremnums are going to go anywhere in a hurry. They are well and truly here to stay. I am thinking about doing a video. It might even be the other video that I do this week. And it's funny that this question came up because it links in quite nicely. I have got, and I know a lot of people want this book and they can't always find it. I have got Dr. Hussain's Houseplant Expert book. And in there, there's a lot of there's a lot of things being discussed about houseplants. So they've got all the different houseplants, but I think it's from the 70s or 80s. What I might do for a video, which I thought might be fun, is go through some of those pages with you, talk you through them, and just tell you, look, this plant that we thought was new was around in the 70s and 80s. Because I've got a few things to say about that, especially when it comes to the Milano crisis, because that was in there as well. And I've always kind of wondered, I'm just like, well, all these plants were around. Why did they disappear, other than obvious reasons? And I think with some of these plants, the reason why they disappeared is the same reason why we're figuring out many years later. It's just like, oh, this can sometimes grow a bit rubbish. Not worth the hassle. So, sorry, whilst I point like scissors at you, how am I going to cut this? This is hysterical, because I'm going to have to get rid of more leaves than I want at this stage, which is a shame. Because it's managed to keep most of its leaves, which is entertaining. Okay, so I will leave those little roots on there. But it's this is the thing now, if I put it in to grow that way, it's not growing that way, it's growing the other way around, so the roots are in the wrong place. Oh. I want to keep some of these leaves, and I don't think I'm going to be able to. So what I might do, actually, is... Oh. Can I... This is the problem with growing these plants in this manner, because do I have a mount? Sorry, well, welcome to the chaos that is my repots. Yeah, all the roots have grown in entirely the wrong places because they've grown in all the bits that I don't need roots, which is the barren stem bits. Because there were so many leaves, I think, on this. This is the problem. That won't, because that is a growing tip there. There's not that many roots there. It's interesting because the roots, as I was saying, it was impressive that it's got as many roots as it has. But they're all in the wrong place. So, okay, fine. Let's do this. What will happen is invariably the pieces that I end up not using. Oh, latex on my hands. Give me a sec. So yeah, invariably what I don't end up using is just going to go back into the prop box. See, with this one, I don't know. There's so many roots in this. But there's no leaves. Right, I'll try that as a wet stick. I'll try that as just a stick. And again, this is one that it's growing that way. It's got roots on the peduncles. I'm going to leave the peduncles on there because it'd be a shame to lose those. But I'm trying to see what I'm going to do with this. Because interestingly, there is some new growth points in bits where there's no roots attached to them. So, yeah. Yeah, just get rid of these leaves. Memos. Stop being a baby. Right. There, and there. So this is going back into the prop box. These two leaves, which is a shame because this grows so slowly, is going to go to the compost gods. There's only one leaf, but there's loads of roots on this because what I'm going to do is bury that entire thing into the soil with the other one and then just hope for the best. And then this as well. So we've got the cuttings. We have got the cuttings. Let me get, because the only soil I didn't bring out is cactus soil, because why would you, Memo? Okay, and to paint a picture, this is how small the container that I'm going to put them in is, because actually there's not as many roots as you might think in this. So let me place everything in here and see if they all fit. Oh. You know when things just fit perfectly and it's just like, oh, this was meant to be. So, let me get that in there as well. There's actually going to be quite a decent level of roots in here. So, potentially. I'm liking these new kind of arrowed pot things because you can also get them on Amazon these days. And I know we're all about supporting the small businesses, but I need to take care of the coins at the moment as well because I'll get to that on the personal bits. Things have been happening in the last few weeks, months. So yeah, it's a bit of a challenging time financially and emotionally. But right, let me stop saying and let me see if I can get the soil in here. Whilst I do this, so I'm not like sitting here like idling, let's have a look at some questions. Hopefully that covers the questions on the pothos. What do I do with the bottom part of the plant after I chop? Do I chop it further and root the props, or do I unload it intact on someone? This person says they have a lot of beautiful plants, but they're overrun with sad bottoms. Nobody likes a sad bottom. But good question. Generally speaking, yeah, I will kind of. I've got a lot of friends who would like to kind of get into house plants, but they've not been doing it for a very long time, and they're just happy for any kind of plants or cuttings that they can kind of get their hands on. So they usually love those, and then they can watch them kind of grow up and mature as well. And yeah, that's usually what I would do with that one. And it links to that kind of moss pole question that I was kind of talking about before, where this is like, well, what are you going to do with the bottom part of that? Basically, it's gonna get gifted to buddies who will appreciate that truly. So yeah, this is going to look a bit busted, by the way, the Hoya, but it's just because of where the roots are. I'm just gonna, like, you're gonna have to get on with life, and you're gonna have to enjoy this. And one of the leaves is going to be in the soil level, but I'm less fussed about that because it's in cactus soil mix. So it shouldn't be too bad. I don't want to mess it around too much because there's so many tiny hair roots. Have they all survived? It's good enough. Is there some mushy leaves on some of the leaves? Yes. But that is life. So one is done. Not looking the best thing that it's ever going to look like, but you can kind of see what I've tried to do there. There's now multiple cuttings in here, so with any luck, this will start bouncing back relatively quickly. I'll give this a bit of water, because just to be clear, the prop box that it's been in has not had any additional moisture added to it for nearly a year, and I noticed my other prop box, which I open a bit more frequently, and by frequently I mean every 3 to 4 months, and I'm just like, oh, you're bone dry, which means the other one is definitely bone dry, so I splashed some water in there, and things perked up, but yeah, this has been fine. Right. Some more questions. So, what was the other thing? Have I always loved plants, nature, or was there a plant or adventure that started me on the plant journey? I think I've always been into this. Again, I've spoken about this before, but I was that weird child that my parents would lose me somewhere in a field because I'd be sitting there like sniffing the flowers or like getting really obsessed with plants. I've always felt a really strong connection generally with nature, and I'm just like, this is so pretty. I'm a 100% a typical Turian, and I'm just like, pretty things, look at the pretty things. So, yeah. A lot of my friends will always joke whenever I'm out and about in the town or in shopping and stuff like that, it's just like you're like a magpie, and it's just like, oh, shiny. And it's like, where's Memo? Memo's lost because he's found something shiny. Look at the shiny. The shiny could be multiple things. It could be clothes, it could be plants, it could be a whole bunch of things. So I've always been fascinated with it, and because I was doing chores for my mother when it was kind of predominantly like her houseplants are balcony plants, that kind of kick-started me with all this. And I got back into it when I was in the UK many years later. And I managed to bring a small cutting when we were still part of the EU. And I think before plant passport as well, so I think I was okay. I bought a cutting in from my mum's pothos, which probably was one of the original pothos plants that I was carrying back then. This is how long and back the history of the pothos goes. Previous question. Yeah, so that got me back into it because a friend kind of said at that point, you really come alive when you're dealing with the plants. And I'm just like, ooh. And then the rest is history, so to speak. This is where we are at the moment with all of these plants. So yes, that's I think the beginning of that journey. And I'll answer the next question whilst I repot the Silta Picana words today. Right. Let's get this up. And annoyingly, I watered this the other day as well, knowing full well that I was going to do the repot. So, what am I going to do with this? How is this going to not be messy? I don't think there's a way of doing this so it's not messy. There's going to be a bottom cut that's going to happen. There's 2 different moss poles in here, and you'll see them when they split. And what I will now do, hopefully, if that will work, without destroying all of the roots. That was invariably going to happen. Ooh, I'm pulling up some of the roots. Oh, yay. Some of the ones that were lower down. Cool. So this is going to be a different thing. This is going to be gifted to somebody, and it will bush up. Don't worry about that. But this is doing quite well because it's still got roots in here. Does it maybe need a bit more soil packed in at the very top then? Yes. Did I snap off some of the roots? Maybe, maybe not. But this will make this a much shorter plant. And yeah, I'll need a bit more moss up here. Not moss, soil. Let me get rid of some of the crispy leaves so that the pests don't go bonkers. And This might shock a lot of people, but what I might also do is, and I'll show you, this is, yeah, done. All cut off. I have got a lot better at being brutal like that recently because it's just done really well. I've had another plant which is, oh, I can never remember, Rubary cinctum, I think? Might be wrong. And I took all of its leaves off and it was growing a new leaf at that point and it just grew like mad. So actually, let me just tidy this up and just take off some of the barren stems that are there because this is a plant that has always had issues with it being a bit too, ooh, that one's doing all right actually, okay. So this might look a bit wrong, but it will be fine, I promise you. Let me find a good pot for it. Will this be good enough? Ooh, potentially, yes. Because I don't want the pot to be too big, but I also want to be able to get the moss pole in there. Yes, I think that is perfect. What was I? Okay, so question on the repot. The tour that I was talking about. Somebody's asking, can we get another plant tour video soon? They know that I'm not one to share much about the home, but they really enjoyed the collection videos. Yes, I know a lot of you enjoy those, and I don't mind showing a bit more. You've kind of you guys have been here for too long. You know me quite well now. Yeah, I don't want to show too many bits of the house just because I want to keep some stuff personal. But I will kind of give you the usual tour that I do of the house and the conservatory. I'm just waiting for that perfect storm, which I might be waiting for a while because we seem to be having a very warm summer at the moment. Of a sunny enough day, slightly overcast. Do you think I'm in the UK? I shouldn't be asking for too much by saying all of these things. Where I can film more pleasantly, both here and in the house. But yeah, so that I can kind of just so that filming isn't quite so horrendous of a task, because that is the one bit of filming. Because a lot of times my filming doesn't take an awful lot of time. Believe it or not, the editing takes a lot longer. But yeah, I need the conditions to be okay because it's a very long time to be sat there in the heat. And I know a lot of people appreciate summer updates because obviously there's a lot more growth and stuff like that. So you will be getting one. I'm just trying to gear myself up to do that, essentially, which is why it hasn't happened yet. I will usually, if I can, it's a new thing that I want to try this year. I'll try to get you an updated houseplant tour, both house and conservatory, like once a season. So I would imagine any more than that maybe it just gets a bit repetitive. But yeah, it's one that I need to do basically, yeah. And for the people that haven't realized and I'll tell you a bit of a secret. I don't think it's that much of a secret, but I think some people might not have kind of put two and two together with this one. There's a large reason why you see a lot of content creators do an awful lot of houseplant tour videos, because in terms of people watching them, they tend to be mine included as well, most people's best performing videos. So that's why you might get a lot of houseplant tours. So ironically enough, and I'll also tell you this for free, again, most of us don't do it 100% for the views most of the time, and this is not my main source of income. It's nowhere near enough to be making anywhere near that kind of money. But that's why you get a lot of these. And the repots, we like them because we get to engage with you, but we also know that week those videos don't do as well as other videos might do. But it's less about that. The repots are more down for us all to chat. So we like doing them. So yes, that one's done. It looks horrendous. There is a singular leaf, and the rest of it at this point is wet sticks. But this is a Monstera sultapicana with a bomb ton of roots in the moss pole that are still very much intact. There was some of those bottom roots as well. It will be fine. I don't worry about it, not even in the slightest. But I'll do this without trying to drop everything down. Right. The soil mix that I'm using, by the way, for this is, for the people that might have not clocked, the Anthurium soil mix by Soil Ninja. Just because I know that it's my ride or die, and it does relatively well. So yes, I will need to water this now when we're done, to kind of keep it happy, but that should be okay. Sorry. Soil on everything. Anybody who's watching this repot for the first time and has never watched any of my other repots, welcome to the madness and the slight chaos that is these repots. They're not very polished. Because again, the people that have been here for a while, they knew I was overthinking these things too much, and I was trying to make them visually pleasing and all these things, and I just realized I'm just like, you know what, no, this is the one video a month that could be a bit rough and ready, and you get a bit of verbal, this is my life, and this is the madness that I live in. And yes, I could try to string sentences together, but it's time on a morning. Right. We've answered the other question about the pothos plants. Okay, so how do I treat pests when they are multiple varieties, especially when plants are too big to move? Most of this person's house is fine, but they currently have thrips, green fly, white fly, spider mites in their plant room, and beneficial mites just won't cut it. I did a video, and it should be going live today when I'm filming this, so I'll try and link it at the top there, which is everything that I've learned over 7+ years of the recent houseplant care that I'm doing. And this includes a quick answer to this as well, but I'll give you an even briefer answer to this. How do you treat them when there's multiple varieties? I've got multiple varieties of pests. There's a couple of plants in here that have got spider mites, mealybugs, are here to stay. They are pets at this point. And I've also got thrips in a couple of the plants in here as well. Note how I am not stressed about any of this. What has worked, you're right, the mites don't always work as well. I have got mites in, and I'll keep getting mites in throughout the growing season. Ultimite is one of the better ones. The green fly and all that stuff, it won't do much to that. But I don't think you've got mealybugs on here as well. So you don't have mealybugs, so that's good, because they're harder to get rid of than any of these, believe it or not. I find mealybugs are even harder to get rid of than thrips. But the big thing that I found was a game changer. If you can get it, and if you're mentioning beneficial mites, you might be able to get it. Lacewings. Lacewings. Just get some lacewings. I kid you not, because I think I mentioned this on another video, that I got lacewings recently. Everybody was just like, oh, they're great because they'll consume anything. Everybody's just like, oh, they're really specific to aphids. They are, but they are voracious munchers. My pest population of all of these things has dropped significantly. That would be my big one for that one. Try, and they need to be loose. Try that, and also try loose mites as well for certain things. That will help. If you've already got a bit of an infestation, that will help you control it. And then for the next year, and this is I think what most people kind of tend to forget, they tend to be more reactive when it comes to beneficial insects. I've got into the mindset, and it's made a difference, proactiveness. So literally the very beginning of the season, so mid-spring for me here, and that might be a bit too late as well, I will, and I need to know that they're going to ship the beneficial insects. If it's too cold, they won't ship them. That is the time that I start bringing them in. I bring the cold hardy mites in first so they can kind of get growing with the groundwork, and then I start treating with other beneficial insects later on. So hopefully that answers your question. There's a personal question. I'll leave that until the end. Okay, so this person is like, they need help. Hopefully they're not too late. Oh, hi, you know who you are. The Anthurium pedatum that they got several months ago has 2 growth points. Is it better to separate it or just let it be so that it looks fuller. My 2 cents is I would let it be just so that it looks fuller. Especially the pedatum, it can look a bit scraggly on its own, if that makes sense. The new 2 Anthuriums, welcome to the madness that is Anthuriums. As where they live, they don't see the common ones in big box stores. I understand that. They'd have to travel into the bigger centres in their province, and by the time they get there, they might all be gone. So 5 or 7 hour round trip, which wouldn't be worth it. I understand that as well. That is completely fair and valid. I'm curious, can you get? I know we've had conversations. I know who this is now. Hi. Can you get some stuff shipped? Because I know some of the stuff that you had ordered, but maybe in the winter has only arrived recently. Now that it's kind of more the growing season, can you get stuff delivered a bit faster now? Can you do that maybe for some Anthuriums? I mean, obviously I get that you're trying to like dip your toes in it. Do that first. Get comfortable with it and then do that, because I would imagine it'd be quite expensive if it's that far away to get these things. So on a separate note, they're saying they like propagating and giving out more common plants to friends and family. But some of these cost a little bit of money and I don't sell, so they don't know what to do. Welcome to my life. I've also got to the point now where I think, I'm trying to remember, I can't remember which my plant it was, but it was a plant that was very expensive. And I've just had like so many cuttings at some point that were rooted, and I'm just like, a random friend of mine who's never dealt with the plant, I'm just like, here you go. They're just like, I'm just like, it's okay, you don't need to know the price of it. Don't Google. Do not Google. But you'll be fine. You go. You'll be fine. You'll be okay. So I'm probably not the right person to ask this question, because I just give it to them. If I've got too many of it, then I'll just give it to them. If I've got like 1 or 2, I might try putting it in the same pot so it looks fuller, but that's usually what I'll do. But sorry, I'm also blocking now because they give it a bit more context on how their week is going, and because we speak relatively frequently, I'm just like, I'm annoyed. I'm sad for you that you've had a long stretch of work. I get that. You must be exhausted. Hopefully you've had a bit of a rest. So yeah. Also the Forgetii and the King Clarinervium. Ooh, I don't think I've ever seen a King Clarinervium. Original from Indonesia with 2 growth points, but the second growth point on these aren't established enough yet to separate. Keep them, then don't separate them. They were fairly inexpensive with 2 growth points. Feel they got a good deal. I think you did. So should be good. Forgetii. Oh, I'm so enjoying the Forgetii. Let me show you my Forgetii. Just because. Also try to not throw myself down. Look at it. I can't take all the credit for this. It came as quite an established plant, but so pretty, so pretty. It's super happy. Annoyingly, I hadn't realized at some point when certain things fell, because this hasn't got any space in the house, so this is a floor plant. It had a new growing point that was coming out and it snapped. So I was going to get a new leaf, but now there's a new one potentially on its way, but it's going to take a while. But really like the Forgetii. But the one thing I will say, and this was really interesting when I was talking to Jos, and I did the interview with Jos, who's an Anthurium hybridizer professionally, he mentioned that a lot of the times with some Anthuriums, when you chop the growing tip, it takes a long time for them to bounce back. I agree. It's like, it's one of those things that I'm just like, oh, it kind of makes sense. But yeah, I'm just like, oh. But yeah, so those were the questions from YouTube. Let's have a look at the questions from Instagram, because I had a couple of those as well. Let me bring those up. Okay, so one of the questions is, are there any plants that you would hold on to but shouldn't? so many to list. So many to list. Let me just have a glance around the room. So there is a random two on moss poles that are looking horrendous. Monstera obliqua Columbias that they need binned at this point as well. Like, I'm holding on to them for far too long. I've got a succulent that looks a bit like an ivy, which I got from Jane Perrone, which I'm keeping for sentimental reasons because it came from Jane Perrone, but I don't like the way that it's growing. That shouldn't be here either. There's a couple of Syngoniums that probably don't need to be in here. What else? There's a few. There is a few. My Alocasia Jacqueline, realistically, I should just get rid of at this point. It's on its last attempt. There's a majestic philodendron that's looking a bit shit, and it was doing so well, and I've got hopes that it might come back, but the reality is, looking at it, it probably won't. I probably need to get rid of a couple of the Gloriouses because they're just taking up the space. They're doing okay. They're filler plants at this point in this space. Yeah, I think that's it. But yeah, too many. Too many. And I know I'm not the only one. Let us all know down below. Be truthful. Have you got something similar? Yeah, I've also finished the repot, but I've got a few questions, so I'll kind of quickly get through them just because I like to answer all of your questions, and then I will wrap up and maybe vacate this room for a bit because I am like sweltering. Okay, so next question, same person actually. Which plant makes you feel the happiest and is different from your favorite? Ooh, because you know that the Esmeraldensis is my favorite, but happiest. Ooh. Ooh. That is a good question. Oh, you know what plant always makes me smile, and it's gonna shock a lot of people. I'm looking at it. My Piper sarmentosum, the edible plant, because every time I pass by it and I accidentally touch it, I think it's got quite a high oil compound in the thing, so it's very fragrant. So I think, you know, when you sometimes brush around basil or something like that and you get a whiff of basil, this is the same, and the smell is divine. Brings a smile to my face every time. It makes me really happy. It's not the most impressive looking plant, but oh, so happy when I see that plant because they're related to the smell. I'm a very kind of, I will smell everything. I used to be like a bit of a pastry chef, so you get into the habit of smelling things because you can tell if they're off or if they smell right or not, and all these things, and taste is very important to me, which is why I was so miserable with my pre-diabetes diagnosis. However, and I don't know if I've updated people on this, I have had my recent 1 year check, and my levels, I am very happy to say, are well within normal now. I was able to drop it back down to normal. Took a year of some hard work and eating a whole bunch of stuff that I don't enjoy eating, and in not eating all the stuff that I do enjoy. So now the doctors and the nurses were just like, do not waver too much. You did a good job. Keep it up. And I'm just like, okay, but I'm giving myself a tiniest bit of like leeway of not being quite so like extremely strict with my diet to be able to just go, you know what, maybe if I go out for a meal, I don't have to think about it and I'll just have what I want to have. I'm not doing it all the time. It's fine. I'm not sitting here scoffing like desserts every single day, and then I'll see next year. I've taken off the Dexcom, wow, how have I already forgot it? CGM, continuous glucose monitor. I had it on me for a year. Why am I distant memory at this point? So I don't need to jibby-jabby myself on a weekly basis now, but I'm still taking occasional finger pricks, basically, just to check. And my levels are okay. They're holding level, basically. So I don't know where I ended up on that tangent, but yes, food. Food is important to me. And last of the planty questions, and I'll come back to the personal question in a minute. How old is my oldest plant? Which have I had for the longest? So I've had for the longest, I've already answered that question. A lot of you are on the same mindset. I like it. Oldest plant, actually, I can tell you this. Can I sort it on my plant care app? Probably not. Let me just do a quick scroll through. Oh, currently, I think I know which one it is, and I should have mentioned this earlier. A lot of my Phalaenopsis orchids I have had since I moved to Norfolk in the UK, before I even started collecting houseplants. So those plants are at least 10 or 11 years old now. So believe it or not. So they're doing really, really well. And coming back to the personal question, and then I'll give you my update as well. Personal question was, and I'll partially answer this, I think you'll understand why. So I said, okay, let's ask a personal one. What is the meaning of my name? Okay. So Memo is something that people have called me since I was a kid. It is not my full name. I also won't be telling you my full name. I'm really sorry. I want to keep that a bit more private, and it's the internet, and there are, I'm not saying that any of you are, but like there are some weird people online, and it's, my name is so recognizable, and there's so few people that have got my name that it'd be really easy to find me, basically. So I'm not going to divulge that for that reason. Hopefully you can understand that. But it is kind of a shortening and a nickname of my full name. And my parents were so against it, they never gave me nicknames. There was some friends of mine that I had, identical boys, when I was when we were all in a primary school or elementary school is what I would call it. And they gave me my name because it's an obscenely long, very obscure Greek mythological name. I wasn't named that because my parents had a thing for mythology. It was my father's name, so it was my grandfather's name. So they did that to honor him. There was a whole bunch of an issue because Greece is very Greek Orthodox. I don't prescribe to most religions, but I was raised in that environment. And the priest would point blank not christen me because it's not a Christian name. And my father had to go and it's like, but it's my father's name, and kind of try to convince the priest, and then eventually they're like, fine, we'll do that. On that note, for the Greeks that watch this, my name is so weird. I do not have a name day. Name days are huge in Greece. It's almost like a birthday thing for people that don't have name days. So people will call you to say happy name day or kind of get you gifts and all of these things. I have never had a name day. I'm also really shit at remembering other people's name days. And I kind of flipped that on its head recently. Just go, you know what? I don't have a name day. I'm one of the few Greek people that do not have a name day. Thus, I get a get out of jail free card because none of you guys need to remember my name day. It means I don't need to remember any of yours. Thanks. It doesn't fly. I'm just like, I don't have one. You don't need to remember to tell me happy name day. You don't need to get me gifts. Why should I have to do that for anybody else? There's my grandmother, bless her, who was my grandfather's wife, who I got the name from, because she thought it was really unfair that it was like, she's like, but you can celebrate on All Saints Day. You can do that because it's all encompassing. And it was like, yes, I know, but nobody's going to do that. So it's a lovely thought. And very much my parents are still the only people, my parents and my siblings are the only people that call me by my full name. They did try recently and they said, oh, we can maybe call you Memo. And they tried and I'm just like, oh, it sounds wrong coming out of your mouth. Don't. Just go back to calling me by my full name. It's so weird. But my father, who was against me ever having a nickname, and it's just like, but your name is so beautiful. Recently, he just like, oh yeah, your granddad pretty much shortened it down. My father shortened it down exactly to Memo. And I'm just like, now you tell me this when I'm a full-grown adult? Do you not think this was appropriate further back there? To the point that I don't think even my parents realized that I had a nickname for many years until I was in high school, and a friend of mine who was petrified of my dad. My dad's a very brusque, kind of old-school dude, soft as a teddy bear. Anybody knows Greek fathers, soft as teddy bears, but sometimes they can come a bit rough around the edges. And my dad's the kind of person who'd pick up the phone and go, what? So my friend was really worried about this. It was when we still had landlines, because I am that old. We did not have mobile phones at that point. So you'd have to call and ask to talk to your friend. So you'd call and you'd ask for Memo. And I was speaking to my friend and he was just like, I tried calling you, but I think I got the wrong number. And I'm just like, here's my number. And he's like, no, but that is the number. But I called and said there's nobody here called Memo. And I'm just like, did you talk to a guy? This was the first time he called as well. Yeah. So I went back to him and was like, Dad, and he's just like, what? And we're just like, did somebody call us from Memo? And he's just like, I think so. I told them they had the wrong number. I'm just like, it's me. If they call again, if anybody asks for Memo, it's your son. Oh, okay then. You should have told me. And I'm just like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have told you. The randomness that is all that. And right, I think that was the one and only personal question this time around. And I'll give you a bit more of a background on kind of what's been happening, just because I know a lot of you have been asking. And also thank you so much for kind of being very supportive, and kind of, I think I asked a lot of you saying, what did you buy? And you can cheer me up, and it did immensely for that video. So thank you so much. It really made my week. But very, very long story short, so I could probably do a whole 1 or 2 hour video on exactly what has happened to this. But for the longest time, I have always, and this is regarding my current car, and it links into a few other things. So I've always had cars that are for other people. So everybody's just like, well, we've had the fun car, family or friends and all these things, or flatmates. We've had the fun car, you need to get the functional car so we can kind of do things. So I've never had a car that I wanted for myself, basically. It was always what other people want. It just happened, like, I know. I get a whole bunch of other things because I want them, so it's fine. I didn't mind it too much. I'm not a huge car head, basically. I don't know what the expression is. I'm not a huge fan of cars. Gets me from A to B is fine. That's all it needs to do. But it's the first time that I'm just like, I got rid of my old car, which I hated. Not only it did what it needed to do, but it was very much, it was nicknamed the Mummy Mobile. Nothing wrong with Mummy Mobiles, but it was very much a car that only mummies would be driving in the UK to go and pick up the kids from school. It was not a glamorous car in any way, but very functional. Looked a bit like a box. So got rid of that, got a new car, and I won't name the name of the brand because of legal reasons, and that will make sense in a second. Super happy with it. Got to buy a car that I wanted. First time ever. Got it on a PCP loan. So purchase, hire, something. So it's the kind of thing that you pay installments, and then if you want, you can buy it at the end of the 4 years, or you can give it back and you're done with the loan, and or you can extend it and get a new car and all these things. So I thought, let's do that. So it was a lot of money. It was an awful lot of money. And actually, let's put some figures to it. The loan was for £20,000. Yeah. So my monthly payments were a lot, but I'm fortunate enough that I'm in a stage now where I can kind of do that. And there was at least 2 years of me going backwards and forwards and thinking, just like, can I take this on and all these things? And I did. So that was all fair and dandy. The day after I got it, there was an issue with it, minor issue. So I took it back. A lot of backwards and forwards since October when I bought this car, by the way. We are now mid-July. That issue is still not resolved. And I got to the point where I'm just like, this is ridiculous. There was a few other issues, which at that point, they were just like, oh, it's related to the first issue that you said. Don't worry, when we sort that everything else was sorted out. So dealership was bad. Head offices, horrendous. And I even told them, I got to the point where I'm just like, I'm going to have to take this because I raised a formal complaint. That didn't make any difference with the company. It still took us a long time. They wouldn't give me any update. They're just like, well, look, if nothing's been updated, you can't even give me an update. You're not saying if there's any possibility of repair. Can you damn well replace this? No, we can't do any of that. We don't know any more than you. Fine. So I'm just like, look, I'm going to have to take this to the financial ombudsman, not financial, the motor ombudsman. And I don't know if that's the same everywhere else in the world, but this is, I think it's an organization that you go to, usually free, if you've got complaints with the motor industry in your country. And as long as the companies are members of the motor ombudsman, they can act on your behalf semi-demi legally, I think, to kind of help solve disputes. And it could be quite major things. So that's already with them now. And all of the paperwork that entails, that could take upwards of 6 months and all of these things. That was on the original small problem. Recently, about a month ago, 2 months ago, my car just stopped and I got a check engine light, took it to them. The dealership didn't know what they were doing. My car is a plug-in hybrid, by the way. Because I wasn't quite ready to go for fully electric, but I also know that I need to not be getting fossil fuel type car anyway, so this is the in-between for me to then eventually my next car probably will be an electric car. And I've been really happy with the car otherwise. And it transpired that they didn't know what it was going on. I took it once, I took it back for another 5 days. I've taken it multiple times for multiple days at a time without me having a car. The longest I stayed there was 2 weeks. I'm still paying for the loan of a car that I'm not driving. I also don't live very centrally. I'm out in the countryside. My car is my lifeline. I can't go anywhere without the car. They then called and they're just like, oh yeah, it's some wiring that goes to the big hybrid battery. To paint a picture, that's about $1,500 to $2,000 to replace, and that's not including our labour. And I'm just like, absolutely not. This is obviously linked to the other smaller issues that you all said were linked to the radio. Sort this out. They then talk to the head officers, and the head officers go, no, we won't do any goodwill, we won't do a warranty either, it's all for you to pay. When they then called me to tell me this, they still had my car at that point for the investigation. They're just like, it's probably not the wiring. Actually, now that we've dug in a bit deeper, the entirety of the big electric battery for the hybrid is failing and it needs replacing. Again, to paint a picture, that battery is starting at £10,000 to £11,000, more than half the price of what I paid for the car. And that's not including their labour either. And I'm just like, absolutely not. So this is now with the motor ombudsman as well as the first issue, because I can link it back to the very first day when I bought this car. And I've also included my bank now, the bank that has the loan, because theoretically, I don't own the car, the bank does. So I'm just like, you need to get involved in this, because this is now getting ridiculous. But it's been very taxing, and it's a kind of a reality that I'm just like, the car is drivable at the moment. It hasn't broken down. Also, some context. I bought it as a 4-year-old car with 6,000 miles. That was it. In less than a year that I've had it now, I've added 3,000 miles, and I'm not a particularly heavy driver. So that should tell you something. There's a lot of evidence that it's gone over to the financial institution. Same thing when the ombudsman is ready. They've said that my case needs to now be assigned. They think they can take on the case. They need to assign it to an investigator, and then they'll ask for more evidence. But I've had to kind of go, I think when I was filming that video was a day that I spent the entire day just putting into a spreadsheet and a timeline and copying and saving all the emails and backwards and forwards, because they're going to need this as evidence. But it was getting more, had such a tension headache by the end of it, because I was livid by the end of this, because I think at that point, it's longer now, 90 rows of communications backwards and forwards with all these things about the original problem, let alone all the extra problems now. So I don't have that kind of money. I can't afford to pay for that battery to be paid. So it's been weighing very heavily on my mind, and it's an extra thing that I did not need during the busiest time of the year. Also, on a good note, my business is doing well at the moment, and it's super busy, which is fantastic. I would never whinge about that. But it just adds more and more and more. So it's just a bit like, I am so drained. Hopefully trying to find some me time here and there just so I can decompress. Because at the moment it's like I'm on a hamster wheel. Like, wake up early, deal with the animals, deal with the plants, deal with work, deal with the car situation, come back, there's a lot of life that happens, which is fine. It's part of being an adult. But there needs to be some fun in there, and I've not had fun in a while. So I need to do some of that, I think. I did go out last night with some friends, so that was really nice. Went to one of my favourite restaurants, and I could have more things. I could have everything on the menu, which was great, because it was my one treat for this month, really. So yeah, that was a bit more context. Sorry to end on a bit of a bummer of a note, but I do appreciate all of your well wishes, and it means a lot, basically. Things like this tend to really weigh down on me. I'm too much of a control freak. I know this about myself. And this is one of those situations where I'm just like, and I also want things done fast. Part of the reason why I'm a control freak is I can control that. And when this is entirely out of my hands now, I'm just like, this is going to drag. And the longer it drags, the longer my anxiety tends to build. That's why I try to get things done fast, just because then it's done, I don't have to worry about it, and it doesn't build in terms of my stress level. It's my weird way that my brain works. So this being out of my control and it could take a long time is just a bit like, oh no. But yeah, sorry. Trust me, that was the abbreviated version of that story. But yeah, so on that very positive note, and after repotting a couple of plants, getting rid of a few plants, putting stuff back into prop bins and showing you a couple of things that did really well on mounts, I shall let you enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon and I haven't scared you all the way. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.